Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Breathless, a Korean movie from 2008 that stars Yang Ik-jun and Kim Kkob-bi, and Yang Ik-jun also directs. This film won a number of awards when it first came out, and I remember enjoying it quite a bit, so I decided to revisit it and do a review. And the following plot synopsis was taken from the website A Nutshell Review. Breathless is almost like a one-man effort, with Yang Ik-jun wearing a number of hats in producing, writing, directing, and starring in the lead role of Sung-hoon, a violent gangster who does not have to think twice when deciding to lay hands on his victims, and insulting them concurrently with his foul mouth. He's a debt collector in a small outfit which he co-founded, but finds more pleasure in being a field agent, bringing along his underlings, whom he can abuse as well, and show the ropes to, in teaching the essence of collecting money, and to show no mercy to those who cannot pay up. And one thing I would add something very important to that plot synopsis. Our incredibly surly, potty-mouthed, violent protagonist unexpectedly befriends a spunky, potty-mouthed high school girl, played by Kim Kkob-bi. Now, the opening scene actually shows our protagonist beating a man who was abusing a woman in the middle of the street. So if you read the plot synopsis, you're like, you know what? They're going to show a nice side to this guy right off the rip to give some balance, right? Maybe he wants to see justice and fairness preserved in society. Not exactly, as we quickly observe. And as it turns out, this guy is a, potty-mouthed son of a gun with a really bad attitude. He does not respect his subordinates, and he dislikes or even hates most of his own family members. I recently reviewed the Japanese movie Forgiven Children, which had a juvenile murderer as the main character. I guess it's Dodgy Protagonist Week on this channel. But in any case, this guy in Breathless does not murder people, but he does beat the crap out of them, and he's a pretty miserable human being, really. But I would say he's definitely more of a true protagonist when compared to the lead character of Forbidden Children, which is more just like a main character. But with that said, this movie does give him enough likability over the course of the runtime. There are some positive aspects to this dude. He expresses care and love through rough means, but there is an element of kindness to him. It's further explained that he has some serious childhood trauma that he's dealing with psychologically as well. And most importantly, his interactions with the high school girl are charming. And most of the time our two leads are together, they're having a good time and enjoying each other's company. Now, this girl is having some problems at home as well, and she has like a useless father with some serious mental health problems and a jerk brother who keeps asking her for money. So whenever our two main characters get together, it's almost like a pleasant oasis compared to everything else in their miserable lives. And this is kind of like a core element to the movie that gives it some heart. And, oh, by the way, there's no sexual energy between them at all. Just in case you were worried about this older guy hanging out with a high school girl, it's definitely more of like an uncle-niece type vibe, for sure. There are some comedic moments in this, okay, and some black humor as well, and it's peppered throughout most of the film. The first interaction with the high school girl is it's definitely odd with some dark humor, because it's the kind of bonding you would expect from two men, not a man and a woman. But I thought it was pretty humorous, and you respect the girl's mental toughness for sure. Definitely likable character. She's likable throughout the whole film. I've been a fan of Kim Kkob-bi ever since I saw her in Midnight Ballad for Ghost Theater. And Breathless does represent one of her strongest performances and one of her better films, in my opinion. So it's a good introduction to her, if you're unfamiliar. Now, I'm less familiar with this Yang Ik-jun actor / director, since most of his resume seems to be short films and lower budget stuff. But he's nicely cast in this film, because he's good at conveying like a gritty intensity. And there are some other supporting actors that are recognizable, with Man-sik being the most notable. Now, stylistically, you get some handheld camera work and production values that enhance the realism. This is not a glossy Korean film due to its relatively low budget. but it does a good job of just capturing the realism of, like for instance, there are some montages that show like the street and food culture very well, and overall it's just a relatable real world feeling. So I think this movie holds up. I recommend it. The most important thing to understand is that although, it is peppered with some humor throughout, there's quite a bit of stuff that has a darker tone, and this film does focus a lot on like physical and emotional abuse, kind of almost like domestic abuse as well. These people's lives are pretty miserable and very high stress. So there are a handful of scenes that are difficult to sit through, kind of uncomfortable. So just keep that in mind. Also, the vulgarity is ridiculous. Like, there's F-bombs. They use the C word like crazy as well. So keep that in mind as well. But if you think you can kind of handle that, and you think the main plot is interesting, I recommend this. This is a good flick. Currently streaming on Tubi. And as always, folks, I'll see you next time.